We're going from writing thousands of lines of code in a terminal to rendering a fully structured web layout in a fraction of a second. If you are still spinning up a local development machine to install a blank Drupal theme from scratch, you are burning daylight. That workflow is obsolete. The modern default is Drupal Forge. Instead of manual setup, you use template-driven builds to spin up pre-configured sites and get a working URL instantly. But that speed carries a massive trade-off. When you launch instantly, you inherit someone else's opinionated architecture, content types, and backend plumbing. Pick the wrong starting point, and you will spend weeks ripping out pre-configured recipes and workflows instead of actually building your site. This flowchart shows the scenario match strategy. To launch safely, you have to map your team's technical depth and content goals to one of three distinct paths: no-code, React/headless, or AI workflows. In 2026, the speed of your launch depends on selecting a foundation that matches your team's technical capabilities on day one. Let's compare two very different goals. Sometimes you need a functional product online by 5 o'clock. Other times, you need a sandbox to actually understand how the engine works. If you are building for immediate production, look at the Drupal CMS template. It relies entirely on a browser-first workflow, pulling together pre-packaged recipes to construct your layout. The outcome here is speed. You skip the local development machine entirely and go straight from a rough draft to a usable, clickable layout. The cost of that speed is abstraction. It hides the deep backend plumbing. If your developers need to get in and write heavy custom modules, this environment will fight them. On this matrix, to understand underlying structure, choose the Drupal Helps Starter Site. It's an educational sandbox with pre-configured layout builder patterns and essential modules. But remember constraints. Start with basic content types like articles. Scaling up requires manual evolution later. Deploy Drupal CMS if you need to ship a finished product today. Pick the starter site if your priority is an educational investment in mastering the core architecture. But what if you have an engineering team that prioritizes a highly customized, scalable codebase over browser simplicity? That brings us to Next.Drupal. This is the definitive template if your team is pursuing a headless architecture. This setup combines Drupal's backend workflow for structured content with a highly dynamic React and Next.js front-end experience. But the trade-off is strict. You abandon the convenience of no-code browser building, and your team must be highly fluent in React. If you want a structured foundation, but prefer traditional, strict standard Drupal builds over headless, your alternative is Sobki Bootstrap. It gives developers a modular, collaboration-ready baseline that integrates heavily with established design systems right from the start. The required expertise is the cost. Without pre-packaged UI recipes to lean on, you need deep design system integration knowledge to build out your pages. These architecture-first templates force you to sacrifice instant visual gratification. In exchange, they guarantee long-term technical scalability under heavy custom development. Next, we have templates built for extreme edge cases, designed to bypass general web configurations entirely. If you are testing agent-based automations, the forward-looking AI path offers the Drupal CMS AI and Chrome Prompt API templates. These rely on disposable demo instances. They give you a zero-risk environment to test content generation and live translation workflows directly in the browser. But be aware of the dependencies. You still have to bring your own external AI licensing, and scaling local on-device prompts to a full enterprise level is difficult. Moving rapidly from AI to highly structured events, we hit the niche expediter templates, specifically FLDC and OpenY. FLDC uses heavily targeted Drupal recipes to instantly deploy complex backend tools like event scheduling, complex camp configurations, and custom landing pages. Because it is built so specifically, the data model is extremely rigid. If you try to convert an event-based structure into a standard corporate blog midway through your build, you will face a logistical nightmare. Specialized templates hand you the absolute fastest launch times possible, but they exact a massive technical penalty if your project scope changes. Because every template we've covered imposes a rigid, different architecture on your project, you cannot select the right one just by looking at a feature list. This is why the Ephemeral Site Lifecycle is necessary. It allows you to treat these initial site configurations as disposable experiments. You spin up a demo, test the actual recipes or AI tools in the browser, and use the pause and extend feature to continue your evaluation before you commit to a production launch. Here is the final scorecard for matching your goal to the right starting point. If you have non-coders and you need a functional, browser-built site live today, choose Drupal CMS. If you have a development team that wants backend content power pushed to a modern frontend, choose Next.Drupal. And if your priority is understanding foundational architecture over speed, choose the Drupal Helps Starter Site. The software handles the heavy lifting now. Your competitive advantage is making a decisive architectural choice on day one and focusing entirely on your content.